brings you to Macon today, to Secretary of State's office today?
Well, I was a former candidate in the 2014 primary race for school board superintendent in District 8, and that's within Clayton County. As I ran for this particular seat, I've come to find out that my name was not on all the ballots as it should be. I was informed by one of the residents in Clayton County that while the three members of a family went to go and vote, the father had me on his ballot, but the daughter and the mother did not have me on their ballot. This incident was called in to me by the mother or the wife, and I immediately asked them to do two things. One is to write a statement to what had happened and then get that statement notarized. Once that was done, I got a copy of that to make sure that their statements were valid as to what they were telling me, as opposed to just a complaint. Along with myself and the family, we went to the Clayton County Board of Elections that is run by Annie Bright. This issue was brought to her attention with furious and resistance from Ms. Bright. She kind of refuted it. However, it was elevated up to the Secretary of State's office in 2014. Today is March 12, 2015, so it took a while to get here. And when we got here today to address this issue, they had an agenda which most of them were dismissed. However, I was here to represent this particular complaint that it would not be dismissed. The investigator indicated that he did not get some documents as it applies to the investigation, and the documents that he stated that he didn't have, I had here, and those documents were with me. I stood before the board and simply said that this is a right that we should not take lightly, and that it does not come to me lightly, that an individual's vote has not been counted, or that the process in which an individual should be voting in his district is not correct, and that it should be corrected. However, in this particular situation, it was dismissed by the Secretary of State and the individuals on this board. So it still is a systemic problem within our community that you may be running for office, but you may not be on the ballot. This goes to why a candidate as well as the residents need to know where they live and know their address. They're two different things. Where your address is where you get your mail. Where you live is where you vote and who is on the ballot in your particular area. Do you know what school district you're in? Do you know what state representative is representing you? Do you know who your senator is and your congressman? This is where you live as opposed to your address. And before you go in there to vote, you need to know this information, because if you go to vote and these individuals are not on your ballot, then there's a problem. And they are dismissing it as a small, unseemly problem that doesn't really deserve their attention. However, it's your vote. It's your inheritance. It's what someone has died for you to have so that you can change the issues within your community. It goes to say that changes start right here at the local level. We can't change things at the Supreme Court. We can't change things at the state court. We can't even change things at the state house, but we can change the things in our community. Know where you live as opposed to your address. Know who's supposed to be on your ballot, so that when you go to vote, when these people are not on your ballot, you can stop that process right there, right at that point, and make note of that, which is why we're here today. And the Secretary of State, along with his cabinet, chose not to address it. So again, this is another opportunity for our votes to be disenfranchised, even if we are given the opportunity to vote. By virtue of not having the ballots and the individuals that are running for office in the correct place that you can make the correct decisions.
Okay, there's one thing that I want to ask you. You kept emphasizing that it didn't just happen one time. Didn't you have different years or different elections? Why did you choose to single it out? Did you do it to show that it's a pattern and practice that needs to get attention so it can be resolved in future elections? But why did you stress that so hard?
I stressed that particular issue because this has been going on since 2010. It's a systemic issue that has been known, but yet they are allowing it because all too often it's not challenged. And today I challenged it all the way from 2010 to 2012 to 2014. And with that, with the factual documents and statements from those candidates that ran in those elections, they still chose not to address it and still choose to look at it as a very insignificant systemic issue that does not deserve their attention.
Isn't it normal under our form of government to present facts, certified documents, signed statements from the people who were actually involved? And you did that this morning, am I correct?
Absolutely. I submitted to them a certified copy of a statement signed by the family who alleged that their votes were stolen from them by virtue of not having the right ballot when they went to vote. And for that reason, given the certified documents, it still was not enough evidence, was not enough information to warrant an ongoing investigation to make a special election, to add me to a special election that is going to be upcoming in the local county election. Again, this is a certified document from the family who alleged this happened to them.
So wouldn't you think that somebody apparently may not even be concerned about the voting process if they can overlook it? You got some more letters. Explain short form some of these other letters that you got.
Well, again, this is a certified letter from the family of the 2014 primary who 3 went to vote together. Husband, wife, and daughter. Husband had me on his ballot. The wife and daughter had another candidate on their ballot. This goes back to 2012, where one of the candidates told the elector that she didn't get the right ballot. She didn't get the right ballot. She didn't get the right ballot. And she chose not to respond to that. But yet today, she made the statement that if we get the wrong ballot, that we just need to let the election office know. Well, she did that, and she also addressed it in a formal letter to her, and she chose not to do that. And then again, here in the 2010 election, where another individual who ran for office had the same issue. So again, 2010, 2012, 2014, we're dealing with the same county, the same systemic issues, but yet they still does not address this as an issue of concern that we need to address and we need to be aware of as a community. The Supreme Court took it upon themselves to strike down provisions of the Voting Rights Act in 2014, which took us back to 1965 when they were voted in. And now we see the systemic issue of the counties addressing issues that are changing the time that we can vote, the early voting days, and trying to do everything they can to disenfranchise the voters. And we need to be more act on this as opposed to respond to it.
This is the first meeting that I've come to as the Ghetto Free Press in trying to get this information out. Since 2010, when I was called about the Equipment 10 plus 2 equipment.
Yes.
And I'm not sure if you're familiar with that case, but what happened is that the state of Georgia brought up 12 outstanding people in Brooks County.
Absolutely.
On absentee voter fraud, mishandling. Some of them had 30, some of them 30 and 40 violations. Some of them was federal, felonies. And Lula Smart, first trial was a mistrial, second mistrial, and the third, they dropped all charges against her. Then they dropped, the state of Georgia dropped all those charges against all 12 of them.
Yes.
And yet their life was put on hold for 4 years.
Yes, sir.
Are you familiar with that?
I'm familiar with
okay,
that.
well, if you're familiar with that, are you astonished by what you see here today of all these dismissals? It seems like to me that somebody really do not care.
Well, it's not that they don't care. They have an agenda, and that is, it appears to be somewhat of the white supremacy agenda that's in full effect. If you look at the makeup of this board, it does not represent Georgia. Georgia has people made up of the African-American descent, the Latino descent, the Asian, and the various different descents. None of that is represented on this board.
So most people that comes in here, I don't know, I'm not white, and I'm not some of the other groups, but when I walk in as African-American, I counted all the people that are around this table.
Yes.
It's just like when most blacks, we look at 60 Minutes, or we look at 48 Hours, or we look at MSNBC every night. We look, and even the commercials on TV.
Yes.
We be looking for black children. We be looking for white and blacks and Latinos. We most associate all white.
Yes.
It's much like Andy Griffin show. I mean, let's face it, there was no blacks. Only one lady they said was in the background.
Absolutely.
And so if nobody speaks out, there won't be a change.
There's not going to be a change.
Excuse me, and I have white people in Atlanta, my personal friends, and they are astonished by it too and amazed by it. And so I try to tell black folk, don't be so negative among all whites, because a lot of whites want justice, they want equality, but sometimes we as black folk, we forget that.
Yes.
So I appreciate you addressing that issue. I had mentioned that, but when we look at all these people up here, we be looking for some black people.
Yes.
They may be black, Republican, Democrat, Green Party, Independent, but at least we ought to be at the table, because we go to Vietnam to fight any different war. I appreciate you addressing that issue. I had mentioned that, but when we look at all these people up here, we be looking for some black people. They may be black, Republican, Democrat, Green Party, Independent, but at least we ought to be at the table, because we go to Vietnam to fight any different wars we are representing. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, I asked that very question. What is the process of being on this board? That this board looks like America.
Yes.
It looks like Georgia.
Yeah.
And they said they would get back with me. That is another way of pushing me to the side, pushing the question into file 13 or to the trash can. That's not their concern. And again, I will continue to push that issue. We need to continue to push this issue. Why? We are the taxpayers. And again, you cannot get a real true answer if you don't have a real true balance across the diaspora that represents all bodies, that comes from different segments. And again, today I don't feel that justice was done. I don't feel that my complaint was heard. I don't feel that the complaint of the citizens were heard. And again, we have to continue to be vigilant and continue to stand up and fight where we can, because my mantra is simple. We affect change where we are.
Okay, my last question to you is this. As you watched, like I did, the sheriff, I don't know him, but what do you think about that sheriff? Because personally, to me, I listened to him. I listened how he spoke about people not being trained. And the Equipment 10+2, Shaveen King, attorney for the Equipment 10+2, we had a 19-day court case. No news media was there.
Absolutely.
Not a single. I'm the only somebody that was there. So I'm going back to seem as if the voting rights is not important in Georgia. But that sheriff asked some very important questions. Some of his questions were the same Attorney Shaveen King brought out in the Equipment 10+2 case.
Well, again, he is talking about a systematic system that is set up to operate as they want it to operate, not as it should be operated. It should have been done with total anonymity to who's doing the investigation and who they are investigating. And at least you can go in there with a platform without an agenda. And it seems like we're going in there with an agenda to get the results that we're going in there with, no matter what.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I mean, I appreciate you talking. A lot of time I go to meetings, I don't have nobody to interview because these people are afraid to speak out. I'm glad you are not afraid. But with me sitting in here, I'm just looking, and all these cases are dismissed.
Absolutely.
I'm saying to myself, what is this all about?
Absolutely.
And I think might have been the sheriff. Somebody mentioned about Russia, Iran, or some of these foreign nations. We thought we was better than that. We thought we had arrived, but apparently we haven't.
Don't be a fool. No, we have not arrived. We have a lot of ways to go. You know, we are no further today than we was in 1965 when we walked the Edmund Pettus Bridge.
Wow.
No further today than we not walked the Edmund Pettus Bridge. And it's ironic that I would be here today talking about this. Voting rights, the voting process as they fought for it this past Sunday, being Bloody Sunday, 50 years later. Are we making any progress? Do we care? Do we really care? Or is it just another process of just going through the motions so that we can maintain and sustain?
Are you familiar with the newly elected black mayors who they are removing from office? They got Superior Court judges moving from office. They are taking their power. They're changing governments without getting with the state of Georgia. Some of the family members on criminal trespass. I got 11 cities that I have visited. And it seemed like to me the Secretary of State, the Attorney General, the Governor, they all are aware of it. We've sent information to the Attorney General Eric Holder, and yet nobody seemed to care. It seemed as if, though, this nation is falling apart. It's
falling apart, and I can attest to that. You know, when we look at what is going on, when we look at what's going on in our counties and cities, when we look at the city of St. Louis, and I hate to use that as a cliche statement, which is so highly contested in the news, but that's a very good example of where we are. And now with the investigation that's come out with the scathing reports of all the racism that's going on, that's not just St. Louis. That's not just St. Louis. It is in and about everywhere. We have right here in Georgia. I'm dealing with some cases up I-20. They've got the same issues going on. So again, we just have to be a more vigilant people and a more committed people. We have to quit being bought out and waiting for the crumbs to fall. The crumbs don't taste that good anyway.
Okay. Once again, what's your name?
Benoit, Reverend Benoit, president of the Clayton Henry chapter of the National Action Network.
National Action Network. Other words, is that Al Sharpton's group?
That's correct.
I criticize Al Sharpton because I think Al Sharpton needs to come to Georgia on these newly elected black mayors, and 2 white females have called me as well. It's just that people don't want change, and they want me to quit. They call me an outside agitator. But I tell them that Jesus rode into Jerusalem, and he became an outside agitator.
Absolutely.
I told him that Moses went before Pharaoh, and he was an outside agitator. I also told them that if you want your clothes clean, you better have an outside agitator put on the inside of your washing machine, because regardless of what detergent you use, your clothes will still be dirty.
Absolutely. I'm an agitator, and I do it very well.
Thank you very
much. I have a problem with that.
Oh, because you're with National Action.
National Action Network.
Thank you, my beautiful. God bless you, my brother.
The witnesses lied on the stand.
Yes, yes, yes.
The Georgia Bureau of Investigation lied on the stand.
That's right. Yes,
Falsified documents.
that's right. Yes,
The Secretary of State lied on the stand.
yes, yes, yes.
Boone from the post office, who started this whole mess, lied on the stand,
Yes.
all to try to make these citizens look guilty.
On behalf of the Get To Free Press, I want to thank you for watching. Behold how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. For it is like the precious ointment upon their head that ran down upon the beard, even Aaron's beard, as the dew of Hermon, and as the dew that descended upon the mountains of Zion. For there the Lord commanded the blessings, even life forevermore. Please remember, my good people, that when truth comes into the minds of those that seek truth, then all falsehood must vanish, and falsehood is forever a vanishing thing. So my brothers and sisters, if you enjoyed today's broadcast, we invite you to click the like button and to share this with your friends, family members, and if necessary, your enemies. But in the end, truth, right, and justice will win without exception. Bye-bye. We go.
Thank you.